for coming. Now, I mean, we all know you play for England, Essex, but the early years, at what age did you first get introduced to cricket?
First of all, good evening to everybody, ladies and gentlemen. I first got introduced to cricket probably around the age of 6. My dad used to play a lot with me, throwing balls at me, a little bit like I'm doing with my son right now. So I was probably picked up about six years old, and then started playing in the park around 8 years old. And then, it sort of just went on from there. I just had a love for the game.
So, was your dad playing for a club, or did he play some semi-pro, or?
No, definitely not semi-pro. He just played club cricket with his friends in Goodmayes Park, and that's pretty much where I learned my first bits of cricket. And I learned a lot from his friends, even though I look back now and think, what the hell were they telling me? But it started me off, and that was the most important thing.
Who were your early influences, and did you have any cricketing heroes when you first started, when you were a young lad?
Well, influence, I would always say my dad. Just because the time he put in to take me to wherever I needed to go, the grounds, to training, nets and all that sort of stuff. He wasn't massively knowledgeable on cricket, but he put the time in to take me wherever I needed to go. And my heroes growing up watching cricket, I never had heroes outside of cricket. To be honest, I watched football, but they weren't my heroes. My heroes were, the biggest hero was Sachin Tendulkar. I actually don't have a favourite cricketer anymore. Most people who love Sachin will now learn that they won't ever have another cricketer to love because he's gone now. But yeah, I learned a lot from Sachin. Not only watching him, the way he is as a man, as a human being, he's a great human being, and the opportunity to play against him and talk to him about cricket. He gave me a lot of his time. Yeah, he grew on me more and more. So as a kid, I respected him, and then when I had the time to sit down with him for an hour and talk to him, I respected him a lot more.
Did you actually, when you spoke to him, did you sort of pick up a few tips, or did he give you some tips, or did you just, like sometimes I know you go and you look at your heroes, they tell you things, do you actually take anything in, or do you just sort of say it because you've got to play your own game, or do you actually try and make an adjustment as to what they've said?
You can't really, it's hard to copy someone. What you learn in cricket is if you try to copy someone, it goes horribly wrong. You've got to be your own man, have your own style, but you can take certain aspects of great players' games. And it wasn't tips that he gave me. Even though I asked certain questions, I realise now that those questions weren't that important, but the effect that he had on me when I was sitting with him and talking to him, he almost passed on a lot of confidence, and I took a lot from him that day, and I think from that day on my career changed. It really did. I think I was about 18 years old or 19 years old then, and my career really changed from the day I spoke to him. It really did.
But in the early years, I think, was there any school cricket you played?
My school didn't have a cricket team until I asked the teacher to set one up. I think around about the age of 14, I said to my teacher, look, we play football in this school, but why are we not playing cricket? And he said, because nobody wants to play cricket. I said, well, there's plenty of Asians in this school, and I'm sure they all want to play cricket, so let's have a go. And he set up some trials, and we formed a team, and we went on to win the Essex Cup that year, and that's it. Now that school's got cricket, and it's got it forever.
So that's all thanks to you. I mean, obviously they have somebody to look up to, and so it's for your school now. Do they ever get back in touch with you and say, come down, or?
They do, yeah. They're always getting in touch saying, come down. I haven't been down yet, but I will be going down once I get, probably once I retire. So in about 10 years time.
Okay, so your junior cricket, before you started at school, were you with on the Essex squad? Were you in the junior program there, or was it your dad's team that was basically, helping you along?
I started playing for Essex when I was 12. I went to trials at 11. I didn't get in at 11, but I managed to get in at 12, and then played up through the ranks until about 15. And they offered me a contract soon after my 15th birthday. So after that, it was probably the best moment in my life after that.
Yeah, because I noticed you were quite a young lad when you played your first class. I mean, I think you were only 17 or so when you played your first class, and you've never looked back since. Your one-day debut, it came quite by surprise, didn't it? I mean, you had KP who had an injury. I'm sure you're probably glad about it, and then it got called.
I think he broke his rib during the Australia series, and I got my opportunity then. I wasn't expecting it, I must admit. I think I was out nightclubbing when I got the phone call. I answered the phone, I didn't recognise the number, and the guy said to me, "It's the selector." And I said, "Who?" He said, "It's the selector." So I said, "What do you want?" And he said, "You've been selected to come play in Australia because KP's injured." So, and then I actually took it seriously. I thought it was somebody joking, but after that, my life pretty much changed in terms of cricket.
So how did it go at home when you went home and said, "Hey, Dad, whatever, I'm playing, or I've been chosen to play for England"?
Well, I mean, I couldn't tell him till the next day because I got back late.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually that keen to tell my dad at first. Whenever I get some news, I hold it in for a long time before I tell anybody. I held it back for a couple of days before I even mentioned it to them. And they came with the news as well, so they kind of asked me about it. So I don't like to say good news straight away. I like to take my time.
You want to keep it to yourself for a bit?
Yeah, I like to keep it to myself.
Or is it a question of you're not too sure? Was that a prank call or?
No, it wasn't. I knew because I got a couple of texts from very close friends in the cricket community. So they all said well done, and but it's just one of those things. I have that relationship with my dad. I didn't want to go in as the dad that I've been picked for England. I just wanted to take my time and hopefully. Do it in 2 days' time, but it's really good news. So they need.
So how did that work at home when, say for example, I'm not sure, was your dad an Indian supporter?
My dad, he actually supported both England and India. He's obviously a very passionate Indian supporter. He's from India, but he's lived a lot of his life in England, and we do owe our support to England, and like myself, I do have my roots, and I do love watching India. I respect all the players, but England's, where it is, and that England's done everything for me. So that's the main thing.
See, looking back on your career when you started playing with test matches, you got your debut in 2002, December, same year, one day, and then test match. But I noticed one thing, you scored 3 consecutive hundreds in test matches. Year 2009. Was there something particularly happening that year, or was it a feel-good factor, or what happened?
That was a great year. I enjoyed that year, but I wasn't thinking too much about cricket. Actually, I remember going into that series, getting the first 100. I got 100 in a warm-up game, and then went into that series. I got 100 there. Then we came back to England, played 2 more tests, got 100, and then we played another warm-up game in England before the Ashes, and I got 100. So I was in a good space. 5 innings, 500s at the time, and it was a great time. It was great memories, and hopefully that comes back again soon.
One thing I'd like to ask you: do you think it's great? Guys, can you hear? Yeah. No? Hello? Can you hear me? Yes? Hello? Yeah? Right, what I was going to ask you...
I can hear you.
You can hear me. Right, well, do you think there's that having South Africans in the English team worked out well for you?
For me, personally, yeah, I've made some good friends. They've been good for England in terms of performance. Their performances have been very good. If you look at some of the players that have played, you've got Kevin Peterson, who's had an extraordinary career for England. Jonathan Trott, he's had an amazing career for England and you know, one of the leading scorers. Who else is there?
No, the only reason I asked the question, you might feel it's a bit of an odd one, but you got your call up for the one days when Peterson got injured, so they called you up. 2011, Trott got injured, they called you up, so I thought, if you have South African players in the team, you're the man to go to.
Yeah, actually, we should get some more South Africans. And hopefully one of them gets injured.
You played in the IPL, the Punjab team. Was that because of Punjab origins, or is that the way it just worked out?
I think it's just the way it worked out. Punjab happened to just bid for me at the time. I think that's got a little bit to do with my roots. I think that's why they bidded higher than anybody else. It was a proud moment to go back to Punjab and represent where my family's from. I'd love to go back and play for them actually. It would be really nice. I'll do things very differently this time.
Yeah, because I noticed you play, there's a lot of T20. You got to the Dolphins, you played for Punjab. Obviously, you both elected yourself not to play for 1 year because you concentrate more on your England career. But out of all the cricket where you played, test matches, one days, whatever, is there any country which you, you don't have to say it, but is there any country which you really love touring?
Two places I love touring. West Indies, very nice place. Good people, really relaxed. They're just very chilled out people and very, very good people. And India is obviously the next best place. Playing cricket in India is totally different to any other cricket in the world. The stadiums are fully packed. They're loud, and even when someone like Sachin scores one run, to cover or to third man, wherever, the whole stadium is shaking. They're just going crazy, whacking bottles, jumping up and down just for one run. And when we hit a 4 or a 6, you don't hear anything. It's silent.
So, one part of the game which has been talked about a lot, and you hear it in pro cricket and club cricket and whatever. Unfortunately, in club cricket they take it as far down to the umpires, like sledging. And in pro cricket you get a lot of sledging or whatever. But did you find that it's on the increase, or did you get much of it in India, or where do you get it most? Or
I've never got sledged against India or in India. In fact, sledging amongst players it doesn't happen. It's not very popular. Maybe it happened back in the old days. When I first started, I used to get a lot. I think that might be because I was young, but nothing now. People may say things to put you off, but it's nothing personal. If any time I got a bit of personal sledging, it was actually from the crowd when I was playing against India in England. So it's our own people. I can't repeat some of the stuff they say.
They're all adults here.
But the crowd gets quite hostile. The Indian crowd gets quite hostile in England, and I'm not sure why, especially towards any Asian players playing for England. They can be quite nasty. So I don't know, maybe it's a drink.
Well, that could be a factor. I think it affects a lot. One thing I looked whenever I've seen you and watched you play in recent times, and that the T20 game. Predominantly you started off as a batsman, but there is a certain discipline in bowling in the T20 games, and also you can't swing that white ball as much or so. But you managed, and in fact, looking at your figures in that over the years, you've done extremely well. And so, you're like a total all-rounder in the T20 as well as the one-days. What do you do? What's the mindset when you see somebody? What do you think of? Do you think of the batsman? Do you just go and bowl, or? or what is it that makes your deliveries, in fact, a little bit more difficult to play or get off the mark?
You have to have certain knowledge on the batsman. It does help, knowing where the batsman's strong and some of the places where he might be weak. But more so, you need to concentrate on what you're doing. The most important thing is you do what you're good at doing, your skill. And if your skill is bowling fast, then you stick to that skill and say, right, I'm going to bowl fast. Or if you're good at bowling slow balls or spinning the ball, then concentrate. Your strength is the most important thing before you look at anyone else. You don't look at the other guy. You worry about what you do first. And if you do what you're good at, if you do that right, you won't have any problems.
No, I mean, Ravi, thank you for that, because one thing, obviously, is you talked about a lot. And do you agree with it? Is it just when your deliveries and whatever, is that more importance on the wrist, the holding of the wrist, or is the release point, or what is it which, you know, makes you that much better?
Wrist positions are quite natural to people who play cricket for so long. So standing the seam up is a very basic skill. Anybody playing cricket should be able to do that. Anyone who wants to be a bowler should be able to stand the seam up. But what comes with bowling is the thinking of the game, working the batsman out, how you want to get him out, you know, the situation of the game. You need to read the game so you know what the batsman, you can almost think ahead of what the batsman's going to do a little bit. So I guess a lot of it comes with experience. You know, it's not all technical, it's also experience and knowing what's coming next.
And I noticed from the, you know, few times that we've conversed and whatever, you seem quite a laid-back character. And guys, I'll say this, I'll tell you why, because I've been trying to get a hold of him to arrange today, and find out, yesterday I got in touch with him and he said, what's this regarding? I tell you what, I nearly had kittens. I mean, I skipped a few heartbeats and what. And he said, yeah, I know about tomorrow. He says, what is it today? So are you that laid back? You just take things in your stride?
Yeah, I'm actually very laid back. I don't like being too organised. Most Asians don't, to be honest. Or Indians, you know, we don't like to be organised. Everything's all over the place. We turn up late,
like today.
So yeah, I'm a little bit like that. And I was joking with you actually. I knew what was happening, but I wanted you to have a meeting last week.
Just for you, I didn't lose any weight, but I skipped a few heartbeats. Right, so now the next thing on the back is you're off to Sri Lanka, and that's 7 one-dayers.
Yeah, 7 one-dayers against Sri Lanka coming up next month. I think the first one starts on the 26th. We'll be finished by mid-December. We come back for 2 weeks, and then the World Cup starts. Well, the World Cup doesn't start, but we got games against India and Australia before the World Cup.
Well, on behalf of the whole MPCL and that, we wish you loads of luck, and you know, I hope that Sri Lanka works out well for you, and for the World Cup we want you to represent England, and believe you me, I think as in 2007 we were supporting England because India wasn't there, so obviously for a lot of our second team naturally is England. If you're supporting, in fact, a lot of people from Sri Lanka here, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, if their main team is, they support England. So England doesn't really lose out a lot, and especially to see our guys there as well, it makes it, I think, for a lot of us worthwhile. And please carry on doing the good work. And thank you again for coming. And I'll call upon you later to do the presentations. Guys, please, Ravi Bopara. Thank you.